You are listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report, episode 201.2, the IU Report with Grant Shouse. In this segment, Grant talks about IU's big win over Ohio State and previews the Big Ten Tournament, talks about the current IU men's basketball coaching search, and what to expect from the Hoosiers women's team in the NCAA tournament.
You're listening to the Central Indiana Sports Report with your host, Greg Mengels.
Welcome back, Grant Shouse, the Central Indiana Sports Report's IU guy. Grant Shouse is a Hoosier fanatic, and that's what we love. Also, a basketball fanatic. Grant, you are everywhere, man. You high school IU. You are doing the Horizon League this week. Tell us about what you've been doing.
Yeah, it's the most magical time of the year, I think. And right now, I'm currently in the car doing this mobily, on the road, headed down to the state fairgrounds in downtown Indianapolis, and going to be covering the Horizon League Tournament Championship tonight. And by the time people hear this, we'll no question have a champion crowned by then. Tonight is the one seed in the tournament, Robert Morris, on the verge of going to the NCAA tournament for the first time since 2015. And they're taking on Youngstown State, looking to go to their first ever NCAA tournament. So something's got to give. It's going to be a good game. Last night saw two really good games. Oakland, who I've become an Oakland fan from last year because of their run in the NCAA tournament. I was covering the Horizon League tournament last year. Got to know Greg Campy, their head coach, a Hall of Famer.
Good one.
He's really one of the greatest coaches, and he's one of the greatest personalities. He's a guy, he'll talk to anyone. And
he's had a great program for a long time.
Yeah, he's been there 41 years. He just completed his 41st season last night. Their season came to an end in a little bit of heartbreaking fashion. Lost to Robert Morris, or as Bobby Moe, as we call him, in overtime, 79-76. I'm not gonna lie to you, Greg. I was pretty distraught. I was upset after that game. It was heartbreaking. And the second game was Cleveland State and Youngstown State, and it was a bad game to start. It was like 8-4 at the under 12 timeout.
Ooh. Oh, but it was a dramatic finish, so.
It was. Cleveland State had the ball with a chance to win the game or tie the game to send it to overtime and in regulation, and ended up turning it over, and Youngstown State held on to win by 2 or by 3. I think they won by 2. They had a chance to win it in regulation, but Youngstown State prevailed, and it's going to set us up for a good championship tonight. That's what I've been doing the last couple of days this week. I'll get ready for the regional. I'm going up to watch a good friend of our family, Eli Henson, the head coach at Manchester, going to be taking on Tipton. This is a matchup I've wanted to see for so many years. Gavin Benton and Grady Carpenter. It's going to be a great game. They're both going to Grace, AAU teammates in the summer.
Right.
It's going to be fun on Saturday. I'm looking forward to it. I'm preparing. I'm getting excited. So that's kind of how the week's looking for me. And then, conference tournament week's a really good week. And
it's one of the best.
Maybe arguably better than the NCAA tournament.
I've loved it since the day it started in 1999. I remember skipping classes in college to watch the Big Ten tournament. And the first game ever might have been the first day of quarterfinals is the day that I skipped. I didn't watch the first rounds where it was the bad teams. But it was Minnesota and Michigan State, and Minnesota upset the number 1 seed Michigan State in the first quarterfinal game ever in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
And then Michigan ended up beating Purdue in the championship that year, and it was a good year.
I'm glad you bring that up because I know we're going to talk about the Big Ten tournament on here today. I'll be going to the Big Ten tournament tomorrow. There's 3 games. I'm just going as a fan. I got 2 tickets tomorrow. I think me and my buddy are going to the first game, which will be Minnesota and Northwestern. The second game is Ohio State and Iowa. He's an Ohio State fan, so that was my selling point on getting him to go with me. And
Nice.
the Big Ten tournament's going to be great this year with the expansion of the new teams. And Indiana's going to play the first game at noon, the 8-9 game against Oregon. And
Right. In the
just
round
lost.
where everybody really starts paying attention.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the most important round.
Yes.
Because that's where the upsets happen. They
Yes.
happen on Thursday. They don't happen on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. They happen Thursday. And
That is right.
that's where the magic of March starts to kick in. Now, not to say those three games on Wednesday, tomorrow, aren't going to be good games.
Right,
but
right.
those games really don't mean anything because let's face it, those teams, the 10 through the 15 seeds, they're not going to win the tournament unless they go on some magical run.
None of these
and
teams are good enough.
That only happens every once in a blue moon, like last year with NC State. That's just not going to happen.
Rutgers would be the one if a team, because of their talent level, was going to make a run. That would be who it was. But I don't think they can do that 4 days in a row. So, or even 3 days in a row.
Yeah, I'm there. I'm right there with you, dude.
And they're going to be 2 top 5 picks in the draft, and you'll be there to watch them tomorrow. So that'll be interesting. Hopefully, we'll get a report from you.
Looking forward to it.
All right. Real fast before we move on to the Big Ten tournament, I would just want to say that Robert Morris and Youngstown State are 2 of my favorites. Robert Morris because they beat Kentucky in the NIT. That was one of my favorite games of all time. And Youngstown State because they're the Penguins, and that's just super cool.
It is cool.
Yeah.
I was able to sit behind the Oakland bench last night, and I got to hear their staff, their coaches. I'm not gonna lie, I was not hiding it. I was rooting for Oakland in that game. Every time they'd score, pump that fist. Let's go. What a shot.
Did you get any warnings on the press row?
No, I did not. I did not. I didn't like stand up. I kind of held it under the table.
Right, I got you. That's allowed.
Yeah, and let's be honest. There's people covering it for Oakland. I know a guy who covers Oakland. Got to talk with him last night for quite a few minutes, or for quite a bit. And come on, he was doing the same thing as me.
Exactly. Yeah. And believe me, I covered Purdue in the NCAA tournament 4 times, and I was not quiet about who I wanted to win. So
there's no question about it.
Let's talk about the Big Ten tournament, particularly. Man, I have been having trouble with the word particularly. With the Hoosiers in mind, and of course, the only teams in the quarterfinal round who know their opponents for sure is Oregon and Indiana. So big one for the Hoosiers.
Yeah, I feel like we're having deja vu because they literally just played each other 7 days ago, and they're going to turn around 8 days later and play again.
And the really good thing is it's a game that IU led with 2 minutes to go. And they were outscored 12-0 down the stretch. Now all you have to do as a coach is say, "Hey, let's do it for 40 instead of 38."
Yeah, that's a killer. I mean,
yeah, but you can beat that team. Is my point.
They're very capable of beating that team, and I wouldn't be surprised if they don't beat that team. My thing is with Indiana at this point, and I know we haven't talked about Ohio State, and I know we will later on here, but Indiana, I think regardless of that outcome on Thursday at noon, I think they're in the field. If they win on Thursday against Oregon, they're certainly in the field. There's no question. They could lose to Michigan State in the next round, and in the second quarterfinal round, and they're still going to be in.
Grant, if I was an IU fan and they lose tomorrow, I would be nervous.
I think I agree.
They're probably
in,
the pressure, but I'd be nervous.
I think the screw's starting to tighten there on the selection committee because Indiana has to be worried about the bid stealers.
Yes.
So far, knock on wood, bid stealers in these conference tournaments.
There aren't a lot of possibilities, though. Not like there used to be. I don't see a lot of teams out there that they're going to be double conference, two from one conference. There might be a couple of those, but there aren't a ton.
Well, what I mean
You might
is
be
the bid
Mountain West,
Steelers.
like if someone won the Mountain West or something like that, yes. But there aren't as
Exactly.
many of those possibilities as there used to be.
Exactly. But the thing is with this time of year, you never really know
True.
because I mean, look at NC State last year. Like they weren't, they
They were
had to.
definitely a bid stealer.
Yeah, it took them a shot at the buzzer to even win a quarterfinal or semifinal game against
Right.
Virginia. It took them, that's
That's
what it
right.
led to. And their coach was going to get fired if they didn't win that game. And they go on that magical run. They win 4 games in 4 days, and they do what they did in the NCAA tournament. They go to the Final Four and lose to Purdue, and now that guy just got fired the other day. But anyways, like take NC State last year, for example, as a team that was a bid stealer. Duquesne, if you'll remember, Duquesne was a bid stealer as well last year out of the Atlantic 10. If you're Indiana, you need to pay attention to those conferences. You need to watch the ACC. You need to watch the Atlantic 10. You need to watch those leagues that are probably going to get 2 or 3 teams in, but the 2 or 3 teams they need to get in need to be the top 2 or 3 teams, maybe 4 teams. You don't need the 7 seed coming out of nowhere in the Atlantic 10, whoever that is, to go win it. You don't need that happening. And if that happens, that's when the screws start to tighten on Indiana's chances of getting in the tournament. Selection Sunday, I think, could be a nail biter for Hoosier fans, but I like where they sit right now. And in fact, I really like where they sit right now, but if they can beat Oregon on Thursday,
Win Thursday, and this is all moot.
yeah, win
They're in,
Thursday
and
and
they're
you're in.
not only would they be in, I would imagine, but they would avoid playing in the play-in.
A part of me, as selfish as this sounds, a part of me wouldn't mind them playing in the play-in because I went to those play-in games last
Yeah,
year and it was fun. And so to have a team that would be in it would be pretty cool, especially a team that I root for
it's a
would be
great
cool. But,
venue.
oh, it's the best venue in college basketball, and
One of them, yeah.
I know Indiana fans would travel for it. They would
Yeah.
go over there to Dayton to go watch Indiana play. So I think that could be a factor. The bubble this year is starting to get really interesting because Ohio State, I think they're really waiting on to see what Ohio State's going to do. If Ohio State loses to Iowa tomorrow, they're done. You'll see them in the NIT
I
or
would imagine
that.
that's the case, but
Yeah,
I don't know about that. They've got. I could see them being in the play-in. I keep calling it play-in. What do they call it? First four?
the first it is the play-in,
Well, we
but
know that, but the first four. I could imagine if Ohio State lost and there weren't a lot of bid stealers, I could see them saying, "Oh, the Big Ten was good this year. They were very similar resume to IU."
I
But
agree.
yeah,
You're 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 not wrong.
but they would probably be on the outside. That's a game they really need to win.
Yeah, they really need that. Is tomorrow is the biggest game of the year for Ohio. Every game for every team now on is the
That's
biggest
right.
game of the
That's
year.
right. And that's why it's so great at the end of the year. Unfortunately,
Yeah,
I've gotten to the point, Grant, where I ignore everything but the Big Ten um, in the regular season at this point because there's so much going on. So I
it's
feel
so
like I can catch it starting in March, and at least there's that. So, but March
yeah,
is amazing.
yeah. It's the most magical time of the year. I can't stand the people that when the NFL ends and the Super Bowl's over and the confetti falls forever wins the Super Bowl. Those people are just like, oh man, no more sports, no more sports. What? What?
Yeah.
That's when the tournament. That to me is when the Super Bowl ends. And all my friends are football first. I'm the only basketball first kind of guy. Not that they don't like basketball, but I'm just
Me
more
too.
basketball oriented.
I think
Um,
I'm in that same boat with you.
and I love football too, and I love the NFL, but college sports to me are just so much better. So they're all sad and kind of upset that the NFL's over. And I'm sitting there like, guys, now the biggest sporting event in America is up next. It's our turn now. You guys had it. It's my
Yep.
turn now. So
Yep.
that's what I love about March, and it's the stories that come with it, like the Cinderella stories. I think my favorite Cinderella run of all time was St. Peter's in 2022. That was just so special.
All right. Grant, before we move on to talk a little bit more about IU and their chances of making a run in this tournament, and I would definitely want to talk about that. Let's talk about the win over Ohio State. Now, the question I want to ask you is, where does Galloway rank in Hoosier lore now? Does he move up in the rankings after having a couple of weeks here where he looks like the go-to guy who is a competent Big Ten scorer?
I'll tell you what, for him to do that, what he did at the end of the game there and hit that three as the shot
Huge.
clock expiring on senior day, his last ever game at Assembly Hall. He's not coming back next year. This was his 5th year of college basketball. That was
Special.
incredible.
It was
It,
special.
it really was. And for Mike Woodson, I've been so critical of Mike Woodson. I'd say even from when the hire was made,
Yes.
for him to go out like that at Assembly Hall, even when he's done good things, but the on-floor product may not have been good, but just they've done good things with him. They've gone to, 2 NCAA tournaments in 3 years, probably could go to a 3rd in 4 years under him. For him to go out like that in his last game in Assembly Hall as a coach against Ohio State, where he played his last game as a player in Assembly Hall against Ohio State to win the Big Ten championship when he was a senior under Bob Knight. It's a full circle moment. So I think Galloway and Mike Woodson Mike Woodson certainly has etched his name in the lore of Indiana basketball just as a player and then as the
Yes.
coach. But Galloway, that shot, and you can edit this out. You don't have to. That shot took some balls.
You can't say that on a podcast.
They could. I know the shot clock was expiring, but they could have gotten it to maybe a better shooter. Galloway has struggled shooting it this year. Of course, in the last probably few weeks, he shot the ball really well. So that was a great shot. And I remember I watched it there on my phone there at Belmont as I was getting set up to do that Marion New Haven game. And I remember just yelling at the top of my lungs, "Oh my gosh!" and it was just an incredible shot. I'm so happy for Trey because Trey's a great dude. Like, he's a high character guy.
And by the way, let's not overlook the fact that it was a game they really needed.
Exactly.
It
and
wasn't just some game.
Yeah, they played bad. They played horribly for a couple spells, a couple stretches in that game. They were bad, Craig. And for them to battle back there at the end, I knew they were playing bad, but to me, it felt like, okay, they're playing bad, but I think they have a chance here at the end because Ohio State couldn't really stretch the lead. I think the most they led was 8 or 9 in the second half, but they couldn't stretch it into double digits. If they had gone up 12, maybe 15 at one point there in the last 9 minutes, that's when it was like that's when I would have been like, okay, they're not winning this. But you just felt like Indiana had one more push in them, I think, and for them to do that was just incredible. And I mean, what a way to end your season at Assembly Hall. I know they've had some struggles this year. I think the straw that broke the camel's back on this season was the just horrible showing against Illinois back in January. And then, but down here the stretch since Valentine's Day, beating Purdue at home, beating Penn State at home,
it's been a nice
beating Ohio
turnaround.
State at home. That was it's just so crucial for Indiana this year. And I think that shot is going to leave a mark on Galloway's history at Indiana.
It was the Illinois game and then the snubbing of Don Fisher. I think those were the two that were like, hey, kind of turned the IU people against him a bit. But
Oh, and it was definitely the Maryland game too, when
oh
they
yeah,
had the poor out of bounds call there at the
oh
end of the
yes,
game
yes,
when they got
yes,
moved.
yes. I forgot about that.
That was arguably the biggest backbreaker in my opinion. You can say Illinois and then the snubbing of Don Fisher, but that Maryland game, I
Yes,
was
I
for
completely forgot
sure
about that. But
the
you're
straw that
absolutely
broke the
right.
camel's back.
That might have been the worst of all. Oh, all right. Anyway, the thing I was going to say about that is he has done really an incredible job, considering what seemed like it was something that was spiraling out of control. It seemed like the program was stuck in neutral with Woodson there and a lame duck, and he somehow
Uh-huh.
got them turned into an NCAA tournament team. It seems.
I know, and that's what I'm glad that happened. I mean, I
Yeah,
think since he announced his retirement at the end of the year, that they've rallied around each other a little bit. I think the guys have rallied around each other. I think the staff has rallied around each other, and that's great. Isn't that? I mean, isn't that what you want to see here? I mean, wasn't that kind of the point of all this? Is to announce you're retiring at the end of the year and then have your guys rally around you, and maybe
you would
things will
hope.
change. Maybe you'll start playing better. So
You would
I'm
hope.
glad that it's happened. Mike Woodson is a nice man. He
Yeah,
is a good man.
and an IU
I,
legend.
he's a legend. I mean, what he did as a player was nothing short of incredible. His senior year at IU as a player, that guy played 6 games. He played 6 games that whole year. He went out in December with and had back surgery. His rehab to come back was incredible. He came back at the end. They won the Big Ten championship, like we said a minute ago, beating
Hmm.
Ohio State.
Right.
Um, he played 6 games that year, Greg, and won Big Ten Player of the Year. I mean that's never been done ever. The guy played 6 games and was the league's MVP. That just goes to show who Mike Woodson is as a player. He's a nice man. I think
he was
at
a
one time, go ahead.
he was a competent NBA coach too. He wasn't a great
He
one
was.
by any means,
Yeah,
but he was a competent NBA coach.
no question. And that's why I think these guys that have coached in the NBA, sometimes the transition from the NBA to then being a college coach, it doesn't translate well. And let's face it, Mike can't relate to those guys. He just can't. And that's what
Yeah.
stinks. And
If you wanted
um,
Mike Woodson to be your coach, you would have wanted that right after Bob Knight. Um,
oh, no question, no question about it. And I think at the time the hire for Indiana, when they hired him, maybe it was the right thing to do. I was critical of it. I was skeptical. It ended
as
up
was
working
I.
out in year 1 because they went to the tournament. It ended up really working out in year 2, and it looked like, okay, this guy's going to be here for a while because they had a really good team. They were a top 25 team all year. Yeah, they had some bad spells, but they did really good things that year, his second year. And then last year, the wheels started to fall off the bus, and then it seemed like this year the wheels started to really fall off the bus, and now we are where we are. And he said after the game on TV, he goes, maybe I'm leaving too soon. Now, whether or not that's
No.
a joking manner saying, oh, maybe I shouldn't retire, or maybe that's him taking a jab at the administration and the fan base for saying F you for
Yeah.
forcing me out. I don't know. To me, it sounds like a screw you for
Yeah.
wanting me gone. And I
Yep.
don't like that because
No.
you know what you've done wrong and your ego won't allow you to fix that. That's where it kind of hinders for me. But
I
when
hear
it
you.
comes down to it, as a person, Mike Woodson is a great person. He is just not a great college basketball coach.
It was not the right fit. Never felt like it was. All right, Grant. That having been said, they are playing very well heading into the Big Ten tournament. If they can get past Oregon, and to be honest, I think they're a better team than Oregon, and I think they
Yeah.
will. I would be concerned that Jackson Shelstead will be the best player on the floor. That always concerns me when the other team has the best player. But I do expect IU to win. Can they make a run? Can they beat Michigan State and make a run?
Um, I think I can. I think obviously they're capable of beating Michigan State because they've already done it.
Exactly.
They did it. They did it at Michigan State, which is seems like Indiana is always for some reason. Even with Archie Miller, it seems like they've had Michigan State's number the last few years, and even the last like 5 or 6 years. And if they had played Michigan State at Assembly Hall during the regular season, I'm very confident they would have won because for some reason Michigan State historically has not fared well in Assembly Hall. Now, playing them on a neutral floor will be different. I'd have to go back and look the last time they played Michigan State in the Big Ten tournament or on a neutral floor. So I don't know if the setting will play a factor. Indiana fans are going to travel well Thursday to the Oregon game. And, Indiana fans are going to show up and show out if they're playing a close game to home. So thankfully the tournament's in Indianapolis. Even Purdue fans are going to show up for them. But I expect Indiana to kind of feel like in this tournament, Greg, that they have a little bit of a home court advantage because they have, they're going to have their fans. They're playing in a place where guys have played before. They're familiar with it. You're comfortable. You're closer to home. Whether or not that'll play a factor, I don't know, but I think it will. I think it can. It'll be just it's the cliche answer, but it's just going to be interesting to see.
Michelle predicted when Oregon and Indiana played in the first round of the women's tournament that IU would had the advantage because Oregon had to travel east. That's never an easy
Yeah,
thing to do, and play their first game right away. And I think that body clock is a real thing.
it is.
Anybody who's ever dealt with it knows that you do not feel like yourself for a little while, depending on the person and the travel and the play. But it
That's why.
it could
That's
be a
why for
factor.
yeah, and that's why for Oregon, like I wouldn't be shocked if they don't get into town today on Tuesday, if they're not already here in town. I'm in Noblesville now, talking to you.
Right.
So, but I wouldn't be at all shocked if they aren't already in town. And if they are, I think that's a good move by their people that book all that and coaches that make those decisions because
Still that
it's
noon
gonna take
game.
it's gonna you're playing the first game. It's gonna take a
Yeah.
day or two
Yeah.
to get your body regulated to the new time. And I don't know if daylight savings time here, having to move the clock forward, would play a factor, but it could.
I'm guessing those teams don't play a lot of 9 a.m. games.
They don't. And
Yeah.
well, that's what sucks for those Oregon fans out there is that
Exactly.
they got to wake up at 9 a.m. to watch their team play if they've not made the trek out here. So, oh well, not my problem, not your problem.
Grant,
That's
getting
that's
up
an
at
Oregon
9
fan
a.m. is
problem.
easy for most people, just not sports reporters.
Oh, it's not easy for me, dude. When I
I
was getting
know.
home
I
at 2
know.
a.m. last night, I woke up this morning, checked the clock at 9 a.m. I was like, man, it feels like 6 a.m. over here. What are we doing?
I hear you. That's the sports reporter's life, my man. All
Yep.
right. Who's your prediction? Who you think will win the tournament?
Um, my dark horse, not really dark horse because they're one of the top four teams, but I don't think people are talking enough, honestly, about Maryland to win it.
Good call.
I that would kind of be my dark horse, but I think my actual favorite, and this is going to sound like a dark horse, but we've seen the magic of March a little bit in these guys. I like Purdue to
Yeah.
cut down the nets on Sunday.
Well, they're kind of a matchup team right now. If they can be dominated on the inside, they struggled. But again, Painter kind of fixed the problem, and that's tends to be what he does. Honestly, I don't think there's a team that I would say is more than a 20% chance to win it.
No,
I
it's
think it's
his,
that even.
yeah, it's his open, especially with the realignment and everything. With
Yeah.
the adding the West Coast teams, it's as
Yeah.
open as it's ever been.
Yeah.
Ever.
UCLA, I wouldn't be surprised if they won either. Maryland, I like your pick there. Of course, Michigan State goes in as the favorite. They're probably the most complete team.
I'll tell you a team, and I'm probably going to eat my words when I say this, but a team that I wouldn't be shocked gets beat in their first game is Michigan. Michigan has not been playing well recently.
No.
You saw what they did against Michigan State the other day on Sunday, and it was a poor performance. So I don't like it. If you would fill out your bracket, and I know people do for the conference tournaments, if you filled out your bracket, I would maybe avoid Michigan.
Grant, I know that you looking at all the social media that you can. I'm sure you're on a message board of some kind. What are you hearing lately, and what are you hoping happens with the IU coaching search?
Um, what I'm hoping is that they can finalize it and it's going to be over soon. I'm getting so tired of it. It's let's say it's getting annoying, but it's just becoming a revolving door of these candidates.
Right.
You know?
Rumors this, rumor that.
Right. And these come from people that like don't like they don't know, you know.
Exactly.
Here's here and I was talking to a guy about this last night. His name's Brian Tonzoni. He's a member of the Assembly Call podcast. He's a huge IU fan. Known him for a number of years. And him and I both agreed that we would not be upset. We would actually be jumping for joy if they hired Chris Beard.
I
I know
can't imagine
Indiana.
a better hire than that.
I can't either. And the thing is people on Twitter don't want Chris Beard. He was, because of his domestic violence background, which is a whole other story for a whole other day. And those charges on Chris Beard were dropped. It's not even an issue at this point in his life. And um, I have an opinion on that story that it's probably not my place to share it.
You can share whatever
But
you want if you want to.
um,
It's your
I don't think
show.
I read it and he wasn't in the wrong. His wife or girlfriend or whoever that woman was in his life came after him and tried to attack him, and he defended himself, and that's why in the court, and I think a court determined that was what happened, and charges were dropped on him, and he would still be the coach at Texas, no question about it, to this day. That hadn't happened. Here's the thing for Indiana to lure Beard is that they can pay him. Ole Miss cannot. Ole Miss is not going to be able to match what Indiana could pay him. I don't know what that would be,
They probably
but
could, but is it a high priority enough for them to do so?
I don't think it is.
Exactly.
I don't think it is. I mean,
Yep.
now if we were talking football,
Absolutely.
they could, you know,
You would worry about
maybe.
Mississippi stealing IU's coach in football.
Oh, nowadays, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That would be a
Um,
lot more. That would be a lot more likely than the other way around.
but to answer your question, I wouldn't, my pick, if it was up to me and I could choose who I wanted, I'd choose Chris Beard. But from the people I've talked to, they think Indiana won't even approach him to go get him. So then I think that raises the question. I think it comes down to a couple of these guys. I think it could come to Chris Collins. I think at Northwestern, I think it could come also to, Mick Cronin. I think it could come to him. I think he could be a good candidate. But if it was up to me, I'd want Chris Beard.
Yeah.
No question. He is and honestly, it's what I think old Indiana fans would like, people from the Bob Knight generation, because let's not forget, he is a disciple of Coach Knight. They coached together at Texas Tech for a number of years. He coached with his son Pat at Texas Tech.
It's perfect, Grant.
It's perfect.
It would be the perfect hire.
And Chris Beard, still does things the way Coach Knight taught him.
And he
He
gets
doesn't.
results.
Yeah, he doesn't conduct himself obviously how Coach Knight does. No one does because they'd
That
be
was
out of a
unique.
job.
That was unique, Grant.
They'd be out of a job.
Yes.
Um,
And should be.
yeah, that's a whole other topic for a whole
Yeah.
other day.
We'll have that one day in the off season.
Yeah, he still promotes Coach Knight. If you look at the stuff he wears, like his quarter zips or whatever, his shirts that he wears during games, it has Bob Knight's signature on there, just kind of showing, hey, this is who helped mold me. This is who helped me
Yeah.
become a good coach. So that I think that's why to me it would be the dream hire. And I really hope Chris Beard here, if we were talking in a month, is starting to get guys out of the portal at Indiana University.
Grant, I don't know why also they would not make why they would not pursue Jay Wright. It's a bit of more of a short-term plan than Chris Beard would be, but I guarantee you that guy's going to win at IU.
I think he could win, but the thing is with Jay Wright and the guys like Tony Bennett is that they got out of college basketball because of the NIL and the transfer portal, and they didn't want to deal with that. They didn't want that responsibility anymore, and they didn't like where the game was heading. That's why they retired. So that's why I just couldn't see them coming out of retirement. I know Indiana could, and I know what you're going to say is that Indiana could throw them money and boatloads of money to come, but I just don't think for those kind of guys it's worth it, especially for a guy like Jay Wright to come back and coach at Indiana, which is not the program it once was.
But you're right. Chris Beard is the right guy. I can't imagine a better fit than that.
No
Grant,
question.
let's talk a little IU women before we go. They're an NCAA tournament team. What are you hoping to see what are you hoping to see on Sunday with the brackets?
For them, I would project them to be in the 8, 9, 10 line. They're not, I think us is, well, not us, because I know you're not an IU fan, but
I
for
am.
people,
Grant, wait, hold on. I want to make this clear.
okay.
I'm Purdue number 1, Ball State number 2, IU number 3. Those are my 3 favorite college sports programs.
Ball State over Indiana, man.
I was
What a
born in
combo.
Muncie.
Oh, true.
And I grew up
But
in an era where they had great basketball teams.
yeah, people overlook that, and you are correct.
Yes.
You are correct. My thing is with the women here is that us as fans, like me and Michelle, for example, have probably been spoiled because Indiana has had success the last 2 years where they've gotten to host, and they've played host as an NCAA tournament team.
Yep. Not this year.
Not this year. It's just not going to happen. The top, if you're a top 4 seed, you get to host. But it's just not going to happen this year, and that's just the way it is. I mean, it's not a big deal, but as an IU fan, I would hope to see them maybe playing at Notre Dame in that pod with Notre Dame as maybe a 7 seed or a 10 seed playing there, because I think Notre Dame would be a 2 seed, maybe a 3 seed, most likely a 2 though. I kind of hope, just for a traveling standpoint, because I would consider going, is that would be the case. But I like that team. I like the fight they put up against USC the other day. I went to the game. I was there. It was a really good crowd. Of course, a lot of Indiana folks, but USC was just a well-oiled machine, and they got upset in the tournament championship against UCLA. I was there for that one.
Probably not
they were
much
a
of an
well-oiled
upset.
machine, and Indiana just didn't have the horses to come back at the end. Like they led in the third quarter. They were down 2 going into the fourth, but they just ran out of gas at the end against USC. So hopefully they can get a team that matches up well with them, where they can go and if as an 8, 9, or 10 seed, maybe a 7 seed, and just advance in the tournament and see where they can go, because they're well coached enough where they are capable of of doing that. So we'll see.
Yeah, got a great football coach. You got a great women's basketball coach. Now we got to match that with the men's basketball coach.
No
Grant,
question. And
Grant,
Chris Beard is that answer.
he is definitely the answer, but we'll see what direction they go. They haven't seemed to make a lot of really good choices of late, but hopefully they
When it
do this
comes to
time.
basketball,
Right, exactly. Look, even if I wasn't an IU fan and I was just a Purdue fan, one of my wish lists for sports, probably number two after a Pacers championship, is for IU and Purdue to be the two best teams in the Big Ten again, like when I was a kid.
Yeah, I mean, because to the older generation, and I say that not mean. I don't want to be mean.
Grant, I understand that
Don't
I'm
take that
old.
the wrong way. To the older to the older generation, that uh, wouldn't that just feel so nostalgic?
It would be
You know,
fantastic.
like if you could get, and I'm just going to use Beard as the example because that's who we were talking about. If you could get Chris Beard to rebuild Indiana like like I know he can, and get them and have them have a good team, and then kind of create this spark in the rivalry again where it doesn't seem one-sided with Painter. It could feel like the old Bob Knight, Gene Katie days, and that you know, I obviously never got to see that unfold in real life. I've seen the tapes, I've read about it and everything, but I'm right there with you, man. I think it'd be awesome to see.
That is the first official IU report with Grant Shouse in the books. I knew he would be this good. What an amazing job he did. Can't believe he is so young and knows so much. And thank you so much for listening. Please tune in every week for the IU report with Grant Shouse. We'll be doing this pretty much year round, talking a lot of IU football, men's basketball, and women's basketball, but also some of the other sports. Of course, IU is outstanding at soccer, swimming, diving. Their baseball and softball teams have been successful lately. So we will be talking a lot of IU sports throughout the year. Please make sure you tune in every week. Most weeks, I think we're going to shoot for Tuesday, but we'll see. Haven't decided an exact day yet, but you'll know. Just subscribe. Our YouTube channel, just search Central Indiana Sports Report. Same with Apple, Amazon, Spotify, or SoundCloud. We are easy to find. Please go find us and subscribe. And if you're interested in seeing the Central Indiana Sports Report continue to grow and thrive, please share it with your friends. Thanks as always. The Central Indiana Sports Report is a product of ITG Media, and I love Susie.